Hello. So, usual disclaimer, enjoy this, but don't do anything you learn on here on your friends or family. So, this lady came to us with this thickened toenail, which has been a bit of a problem. It's come following a few different episodes of trauma where it's been banged or, through movement in the shoe or dropping things on them. And that's caused damage to the cells that make the nail. And so it's growing quite thick. So it's causing a lot of problems in her footwear at present because obviously it's sitting quite high. So I'm just cutting it, and you can see it's not attached to the bulk of the toe. So I am able to cut this nail quite low down, and that's due to the damage. Now, that kind of orangey substance underneath the nail is quite likely to be fungal in nature. Fungal spores do love to kind of get under nail plates, especially after trauma. So if people undertake certain sports, etc., like running or football or anything that can cause impact to the nail, that can cause damage to the nail cells that live kind of near where my fingers are there. And yeah, you never quite know how they're going to come back. Sometimes they come back okay, and other times they don't. And so a lot of thickened toenails are solely down to trauma, not necessarily just fungus. But yeah, you can see there's some wonderful material living under there. So for this lady, we've discussed various options and talked about perhaps using antifungals. But I really felt that even if we were successful in removing any fungal spores and infection, which can take a long time, I wasn't convinced that the nail would be fine. So you could go through a very long treatment plan only to find that the nail is quite thickened through just the previous traumas. So what we decided on was just to kind of keep the nail comfortable. So to take off a lot of the bulk of the nail, say all this matter underneath, and make it more comfortable basically. Once it's all done, thinned down, it's just a case of keeping on top of it. You don't need to get rid of the fungus. It doesn't cause any real health issues to you particularly. It just doesn't look very nice, and people are quite conscious of it. So by keeping it short and thinned down, we reduce a lot of the discomfort through the footwear because it isn't pressing on everything. The lady can also paint over it quite happily. You can treat it just like any normal nail. So if there's an occasion where she wants to wear a pair of shoes with her toes out, she can do so. She can just paint over it and paint over the end part where is now sort of skin. You can just paint the skin and pretend that everything is okay. Reality is people don't stare at your toes for very long, and if they do, kind of, I think they've got more to worry about than you do, to be fair. But yeah, so we can get this, maybe they're not looking normal, but we can make it feel more comfortable and make it so that she does have more options. This lady did say that because she was quite aware of her nail, if there were occasions where she had sandals on or anything like that where her toes would be unshown, she would just pop a plaster over it and say she'd stubbed her toe. So obviously we've given her another option now, making it look a little bit more normal. So I've reduced a lot of the nail there. There's a lot of dead skin and debris, which kind of from like repeated pressure from the other toes and what have you, kind of gathers down the sides of the nail there. So I'm just taking a bit off with the blade. I'm not making a lot of headway there, but I'll get these right. So I'm using the drill here. So this is a burr. This is a vacuum drill, so it does suck up a lot of the debris that comes off, because inhaling that isn't really great for my lungs. So it has a vacuum attachment on, but basically that white thing is that's a ceramic burr. So that spins around very fast. Burrs come in various different shapes, sizes, gradients of coarseness, different types of cuts, depending on what you want to do and how fast you'd like to do it. So that spins around very fast and basically grinds off those top layers of nails so that we can thin it down. So you can see I move it around quite a bit. I don't want to keep it in the same spot for too long, because like anything that's moving very quickly and causing friction, that will cause heat, and that can be quite uncomfortable. If I keep it moving, it tends to be perfectly comfortable for the patient, and you just feel a bit of a vibration, so nothing really painful. But that I tend to take the majority of the bulk down with the nippers, and then kind of finish off with the burr. Like I say, burring does create a level of dust, even with a vacuum. So even in pre-COVID times, we would wear masks when burring down nails. And there are a lot of my colleagues who just won't burr at all, because they don't like the health and safety side of it. And also those who won't burr anything that looks remotely fungal. But it's very much of an each to their own. We're all aware of the risks, and it's up to us personally to decide what we're happy to take. So I'm quite happy with my mask on burring. But I do like to take the majority off with the nippers initially, to reduce the amount of burring that I need to do. So like I said, there's a lot of kind of dead skin and hard skin that is kind of collected around the sides of the nails there. And sometimes it comes easily, sometimes it needs a little bit more of a persuasion to come away. And this requires a particular amount of persuasion, but we got there in the end. There is a chemical that we can use to help to soften it up sometimes, and that helps for us to get it out. I could quite have easily used it on this lady, but I didn't. So you'll have to watch another video for when I use that. So I'm using a blade here to just try and remove what I can. And you can see the indentations and the ridges of where the nail was and where that was pressing on the toe. And just at the very end of the toe, you can just see kind of like a white spot, which I know I will have a go at shortly. But at the moment, I'm just going for this kind of dead tissue down the side, this like dead bits of skin and hard skin. This is what we call onychophosis. Onycho means nail. And so when we're using our medical terminology, anything to do with a nail is onych, and phosis is kind of like sort of dead bits really. So yeah, I'm getting all those out. I'm getting there now. So there's a lot of faff with this lady. I quite enjoy the faff, if I'm honest. It's one of the small joys of my job. So again, there's a lot of my colleagues who would have whizzed through this. But I've had a particular enjoyment in faffing with this lady. Now that little area there I was just mentioning before, that's where the nail has actually been pressing into the toe. So you can see those ridges, but the end of the toenail. So in footwear, when you've got a downward pressure from the footwear, it's caused this ridging. And on the top there's like a little bit of it could be a little seed corn, if I remember rightly. It's a tiny little corn, again, just where the tip of that. So again, that causes a lot of discomfort. And you can see that's not just happened overnight. This has been something that's been kind of causing an issue for a while. Now, obviously, now that the nail isn't there, that's not going to be causing the pressure, and that should feel tons more comfortable. But some of those indentations will settle down with the nail now not being there, and some are kind of, they can take a little bit longer to disappear. Now, a lot of this treatment isn't painful at all. It looks like it can be. Sometimes you get a bit of a tugging sensation, or it could be slightly uncomfortable, but for the whole of the treatment, it generally isn't that painful. Just try and get a better hold on it. It's proving particularly annoying. I just like to make sure that everything is out, everything is clear, and there's nothing left that's really going to cause any aggravation. So I've been using, like I say, a blade to try and remove this area of hardness. I do quite like using blades down the sides of nails here. The nippers can be great for getting hold of things, but the nippers do lift any areas of nail, obviously, to get hold of it, and that can be quite uncomfortable sometimes. There are different nippers which are kind of finer, bladed to be able to get things out, but sometimes just using the blade on the side of the nail can be much more comfortable. So I've pretty much finished that. Now obviously I've burred it using the burr already, so the majority of it is pretty smooth, but any rough areas I like to take off. This lady also had a bit of hard skin, so of course we took that off for her. So this area is what we call the first MPJ. So we number the toes from 1 to 5, 1 being the big toe, and then we work our way outwards. So the MPJ stands for metatarsophalangeal joint. So this is the joint where your midfoot bones, the metatarsals, meet the phalangeal bones, which are your toe bones, commonly known as the ball of your foot. So you can see she's got hard skin on both the first, the third and the fifth MPJs. Now this build up is coming through the way that her foot is functioning. So we've got slightly uneven distribution of forces of pressure when this lady's in motion, so that these 3 joints are taking the bulk of the weight. Now these issues, I mean, ideally the weight is spread a little bit more evenly across the whole of the forefoot. Certain joints take more pressure than others normally, but the other joints need to be taking their fair share, and that's just not happening in this case. So what we can do is, after a full biomechanical assessment, we can look at insoles that will help to change where the pressures are being laid out, so to try and make things a little bit more evenly distributed, and that then would have the knock-on effect of reducing the amount of callus build-up that occurs. Removal of callus isn't painful at all. Like I say, we use quite sharp blades. I love my 15s. I know there will be many of my colleagues, get a 10, get an 11. They're all different shape sizes. This one is one of the smaller ones, so it takes a little bit longer. I just like them. But yeah, whatever floats your boat, as in blades, we all have our preferences. I just like the fiddlier ones. But there will be, lots of people who very impatiently go, God, just get a bigger blade, it'll take half the time. Probably would. I just don't, I can't get along with them. Well, I can. I just prefer these. And you'll see me, I like to stroke over it with my thumb. That's just so, I mean, obviously while I'm doing the chopping, I use my top thumb there to get whilst I'm holding the foot, I'm using my thumb to kind of get me a good amount of skin tension so that the skin's not bagging against me when I pull down with my blade. And so I get myself a good bit of skin tension so that I can take that hard skin off. And then I generally just run my thumb over it. That for me gives me a good idea of like how much else have I got to go, because I do get asked, how do you know when to stop? Colour, the change in the colour is a good indication. For me, the biggest indicator is the feel of it. So I do run my thumb over the area to get a feel for it. Are there any ridges? Does it feel thin enough now? Does it feel pliable? Hard skin feels very hard and lumpy, and obviously I want to remove as much as I can to make it comfortable for the patient, but not so much that it makes it uncomfortable, because that hard skin has developed to provide a level of protection, but when it reaches a certain point, that protection then becomes a bit of a problem because it is, say, very thick and uncomfortable. There are different methods you're taught at university of gaining skin tension, and it really seems to vary from school to school, really. So who you have teaching you, I've always done it this way, as far as I'm aware, and it works for me. Some people do create, well, I'm creating a little bit of a pinch here using pulling apart my forefinger and my thumb. Again, that's another way of doing it. And the way we hold our scalpels, you can't actually see that well from these shots, but we actually have the end of the scalpel, so the non-pointy bit, kind of rests in between our little finger and the one next to it, the forefinger. It's one of the things that at first feels wrong, but then the more you get used to it, it provides you with a little bit more control of the actual blade handle. So we don't kind of hold it in like a pencil grip, if you like. We hold it, say, with that end bit in between our little fingers resting on there. And a little bit of hard skin on this point as well. So I'm just tidying everything up. Coming to the end now. So this nail, as you can see, is completely different to the other one. It's far more normal. But I thought I'd give them a little tidy up. This lady is perfectly capable of managing her own nail care, etc. But of course, I want to give her the full treatment. So I'm rounding off those edges, and as you can see, there's a little bit of hard skin there again from the length of the nail, where the downward force of the shoe has been pressing that nail downwards, and that's caused that bit of ridging there. Those little side bits we call sulci. So you have the sulci of the nail there. So she's got some sulcal callus there in the nail. So I'm just removing that. Again, it doesn't have to come off. Over time, now that nail has been removed, it will kind of shed and shear away of its own accord over the next coming weeks. But as you can see, it really doesn't take long to nudge it on its way. And I'm going to give him a nice file off, because nobody likes catchy nails. And that's it done. And this is all the bits that we chopped off, because I know you all like to see this. There's our bowl of cornflakes there, and they all go in the bin to be got rid of. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more vids. See you.